Hey, Tom, do you like minis?
Well, I think it's fair to say that we both like minis, Dad, 'cause we've owned like 6 of them in the last couple of years.
Well, there is a new Mini Cooper hatch and a new Mini Countryman. And guess what, Tommy?
They've gone electric, so
That's
we've
right.
got a couple of really interesting new model debuts, a little small hatchback and the larger four-door Countryman. And in this video, we're telling you everything you need to know about the 2025 Mini Cooper hatch and Countryman.
Do you know that by 2030, Mini plans to completely phase out internal combustion?
Well, that's what they're saying, but we do know that at least the Countryman is going to have some internal combustion variants, so that transition hasn't fully happened yet.
So with this redesign, we're looking at the 5th generation Mini Cooper hatch since the original Alec. Isagonius, I can never say that. Designed the car in 1959. The original ran all the way to 2000. We've had 3 generations since BMW took over. What are those 3?
Well, yeah, so the post-Isagonis design,
Thank
right?
you.
We had the R50 from '01 through '06, then the R56 from '06 through '13, and then the F55, F56 from late 2013 until now. And then, of course, the current Mini hatch does have an electric model. So in this video, we're going to start out with the standard two-door hatchback, and then we'll talk about the Countryman in a second. Now, let's talk about the Countryman just for a brief moment, because that one is on its 3rd generation. The original R60 came out in 2010, and then the current generation's been around for 6 or so years. And there's a plug-in hybrid, but not fully electric.
All right, now the part you've been waiting for, the 2025 Mini Cooper hatchback. What's inside, Tommy?
Well, it's got a very minimalistic design outside and inside. So the first thing I want to say, Dad, is it does have the iconic round headlights of the original Mini, but from the outside, it's gotten a little bit more squared jawed, a little bit more angular, some triangular components. And then on the inside, it's extremely minimalist. There's no instrument cluster in front of the driver at all. Instead, you get a circular center display, which kind of is a hark back to the original, but it's, of course, no traditional dials. Instead, you get a 9.4-inch circle that controls everything.
Yeah, I'm really getting tired of no traditional dials and buttons. Let's face it, Tommy, that's just a way for manufacturers to reduce costs because buttons and dials are expensive, screens aren't, and Mini has definitely doubled down on that.
Well, you still get traditional simple controls for the power switch, the gear selector, and then, of course, toggle bars for the experiences. There's a bunch of different drive modes.
Wahoo.
Yeah, so you can tailor your drive modes to meet your Mini, but you've got Core, Green, and Go-Kart, which is going to be the fun-to-drive drive mode.
I'm just waiting for them to put a screen where you usually have the window buttons.
And then you also have 4 optional modes: Vivid, Timeless, Balance, and Personal. Wow, they are really going for some buzzwords there, that's for sure. And then it's running on the new Mini Operating System 9. So you got an all-new infotainment system. You still get buttons for core controls, but you can now do everything versus voice recognition. So
that works like a charm.
You can do Hey Mini. You can change it. You can change the name. It recognizes to Spike, the word Spike instead of Mini, as a nod to enthusiasts.
Why Spike?
I don't know that story.
What nod to enthusiasts is that?
Not really sure. Someone can leave me a comment below.
Yeah, please, if you know why Spike.
And then, unlike older voice systems, Dad, the new system will actually visualize what you say, so you know how it actually interprets how you say it, which is interesting. But let's talk about the powertrains, because this new Mini has a couple of different electric powertrains.
Yeah, so there are actually 2 powertrains options. There's the Cooper E and the Cooper SE.
So both are single motor front wheel drive models. Now the basic E spec has 184 horsepower, 214 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 7.3. So that's about what the current SE does. So the new E is about the same performance as the SE, but the new SE, Dad, makes more power.
Yeah, 218 horsepower, 234 pound-foot of torque.
243.
243 or 160 kilowatts. Or 330 Newton meters for all of you engineers out there, 0 to 60 in 6.7, dude.
Yeah, so 6.7 or 7.3. And then we got to talk about the big news, which is battery capacity. Now, the old one had about a 32 kilowatt hour pack. It went 114 miles. We owned the old one for actually a number of years, and it was a great car, but didn't go quite far enough on a single charge.
Yeah, we actually road tripped it. That was fun.
Now, the standard Cooper E gets a 40.7 kilowatt hour battery, so it's gone up about 8, and the estimated range is about 190 miles or 305 using the WLTP cycle, which is a little more optimistic than the EPA. So figure like 170 EPA for the standard car.
Now, the Cooper SE gets a 54.2 kilowatt hour battery, estimated range 250 miles or 402.
That's also WLTP, so figure like
Kilometers.
225 on EPA
Yeah, what
cycle.
are those Europeans doing? Why are they so like optimistic?
Yeah, WLTP is always a little bit off and a little optimistic.
And that's in the summer.
Now let's talk about those numbers, right?
Yeah.
So figure like 170 and then 225. Is that good enough? That's a big step up over the current one, but is it good enough for a 2025 model year?
I mean, in Europe, it competes with cars like the Fiat 500,
Yeah.
which we're also going to get. And that, I think, if I remember right, has a range of about 150 miles in Europe. So it seems to be exceeding that. You know, these are city cars that usually don't do that well in America because most people, you know, live in cities. In Europe, don't have far to go to get to other cities. But here in America, it's a long distance to go from like Denver to LA. So people are a little bit more hesitant now.
Now, if you're charging on AC, you get an 11 kilowatt charge rate on level 2. Fast charging is improved over the current one, but not as high as I would like to see.
Yeah, so the old one we had was 50 kilowatts.
Yeah, the new Cooper E will support up to 75, and the SE will support up to 95, which Mini's saying 10 to 80% in under 30 minutes.
It's a little bit of a head scratcher because the great thing about Minis is they're small and the battery packs are small. So potentially this could be one of the fastest charging cars out there if you actually gave it like 150 kilowatt charger, right? But for some reason, maybe because you don't want to fry the battery, I don't know, maybe it's beyond me, they gave it, you know, relatively small batteries. This feels like something, and I hope I'm not being too grumpy, but this just feels like something that would have been correct 5 years ago, and today it feels like it's already behind the 8-ball.
Yeah, 75 and 95 is not a very fast peak charge rate, but maybe it'll have an amazing charging curve. So trim options, you've got the Essential trim, which is the basic model. There's a Classic trim, which gives you a modern 2D knitted textile seat, which is pretty interesting. No, Essential on the dashboard and on the door cards and the center armrest. And then there's a Favored, which is a two-tone houndstooth teeth, and then a JCW, which is black leatherette sport seats. Gives you some more aggressive look on the outside as well, with an optional contrasting chili red roof, and then hood stripes.
Now it's going to start at about $10,000.
No, I don't think so. We don't have pricing for either the Hatch or the Countryman. It should go on sale next year, and we'll have more info.
Ours was like 30, right?
Yeah, ours used to start about 30. I think this one's going to be more expensive. But it's likely that it's going to be more expensive.
And I've got more grumpy bad news for all of you who are Mini fans like us. Neither of these cars qualifies for the federal EV tax credit, unfortunately, because they are not built in the United States.
Now, the old Mini Cooper
Unless you lease them.
The old Mini Cooper SE was built at the Cowley plant in the UK. The new one will be assembled in China, which is interesting. And as far as we know, Mini will still build a new gas-powered Mini at the Cowley plant for a little longer while. A new model may launch in 2025 and last a couple of years before they phase out the ICE altogether. But no details on the ICE yet, just the EV.
All right, well, let's talk about the new Mini Countryman. Will this be all-wheel drive?
Well, we're about to find out then.
Yes, all right. Let's start with how big it is.
So if you're looking for a larger option than the standard 3-door car, the Countryman is also all new. So the new one measures 174.5 inches long, 72.5 inches wide, and 62.5 inches tall. So it's about 5 inches longer and 4 inches taller than the old one, which is a pretty big deal. And like the Mini Hatch, the Countryman also gets a lot more angular design. So it's much more squared off. The headlights are no longer kind of round and bubbly. They're very kind of aggressive and angry.
Yeah, I'm going to let you guys look at it, and I'm going to say, let's skip to the inside, Tommy.
Yeah, so inside the 2025 Countryman has the same philosophy as a hatchback, fewer hard buttons. Once again, no instrument cluster in front of the driver. Like the Countryman, like the Hatch, the Countryman uses the Mini Operating System 9.
Hey, what's another car that has no buttons and has a center instrument cluster?
Kind of like the Teslas.
Yes, like the Teslas, except that Mini already had that originally.
Well, they
Right?
had the center-mounted speedometer.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you know, they're kind of copying Tesla, but maybe Tesla was copying Mini.
That's true. Very, very true, Dad. Important driving information on top and then customizable options in the center, and climate controls along the bottom, that kind of thing. Cargo capacity is between 16.2 and 51.2 cubic feet, depending on whether or not you have the rear seat down or up. And let's talk about the powertrain in the new Countryman.
Yeah, so the Countryman E-Spec is front-wheel drive, single motor, 204 horsepower, 184 pound-foot of torque, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and a top speed of 106. Now estimated range, once again, 287 miles on the WLTP standard.
That's a lot more than the hatchback.
It is. How about the Countryman SE, Tommy?
Well, that's going to be an all-wheel drive dual motor car, 313 horsepower, so very powerful Mini. 0 to 16, 5.6, top speed of 112, and an estimated range on WLTP of 269. Now we're getting into some higher numbers. So the front-wheel drive one, EPA will probably be like 260, and the rear-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive will probably be like 240. So, you know, better numbers than what we saw in the hatchback.
Yeah, it'll actually tow 1,200 kilograms or 2,650 pounds, which is like a small motorcycle.
Now, unlike the hatch, Mini does not specify the battery capacity for the Countryman, but Mini does mention gasoline engine options for the new model. There's a front-wheel drive Countryman C, the all-wheel drive Countryman S all-4, and then a high-output JCW all-4. We don't have specific details on the gasoline models, but figure probably pretty similar to the current gasoline models. I would guess a 2-liter 4-cylinder, and then there will also be a diesel variant, but that's most likely not coming to the States.
Here's another head scratcher, right? So it gets up to 22 kilowatt hours of AC charging.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about charging now. Sorry.
Yeah.
22 kilowatts of AC charging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is, you know, fine. It's good. And then the head scratching is DC or fast charging. It's up to 130 kilowatts. Why would you give the Mini Countryman 130 kilowatts, but the other one 75? What's the thinking there?
Well, I'm thinking it's got a bigger battery pack. Typically, larger batteries packs are easier to get higher peak rates into. So they say 10 to 80, and once again, under 30 minutes. So bigger battery. We don't know how much bigger, but clearly it's bigger if it's got more range and it's a bigger car, and then a faster DC peak charge rate. So at least we're talking over 100 on this car.
So what are the 4 trim options?
So the Countryman gets the same 4 as the hatchback: Essential, Classic, Favored, and JCW. Each changes the cosmetic pieces as well as the seats, steering wheel, that kind of thing. 19 or 20-inch wheels. And then pricing, we don't have pricing for the new Countryman. It's likely to have some pretty large variation from gasoline to EV. The current one starts at just over 30.
Now, there could be another Mini coming, Tommy, the Aceman.
Yeah, so there's a revamped, we've talked about the revamped hatchback and Countryman. Mini has previewed the Aceman a little while back, but that is likely to be a new crossover that's even smaller than the Countryman and fully electric with no ICE options. And this will be the first ever EV-only Mini from its inception, although we don't know what the hatchback's going to do, EV versus gas. Official pricing is still way off. We don't have a ton of details, but hopefully that could be a new affordable model, maybe in like the $30,000 range.
Yeah, so that's it. That's a lot of information that we went through in a short amount of time. And remember, you guys saw it first over here on the Fast Lane Car, or TFL, 2025. So when do you think these are going to hit dealerships?
Yeah, I figure sometime next year in 2024. I think that, especially the hatch, is a pretty attractive design. I'm happy the range is up. A little concerned that at least it looks like there's not going to be a gasoline model. And then the Countryman, I think, is a nice improvement, but I'm just worried that the price is going to be so outrageous on the Countryman. So it's really going to come down to pricing on me on that model.
Yeah, and Mini, I think, is a perfect company to go electric. Do you know that one of the most popular cars they sell right now is a current electric SE?
Yeah, I mean, it was affordable. For a while there, it qualified for the full tax credit, and people were buying them up like crazy. But this new one gives you more range, more luxury, more performance. I'm a little worried about the interior. It's a little too minimalist, I think, but we're just going to have to get behind the wheel and see what it's like if it's got the same Mini flair.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I was a little grumpy in this video. I'm sure that once we get behind the wheel, I'll be more joyful as, the car is so much fun to drive, I'm hoping. As always, this is Roman.
Yep, and Tommy, check out alltfl.com for the latest and greatest in new car and truck debuts.
Ciao.